Okay, in today's educational video, we are going to be discussing how brain imaging can play a very important role in helping a birth injury attorney like myself be able to understand a baby's traumatic brain injury at birth. Now, in previous videos, I have talked about how we have to use medical experts to be able to have a better understanding as to the cause or as to a baby's HIE injury. And these particular types of experts, they are needed in a lot of states. We have to have medical experts who will be able to testify as to not only the standard of care, but whether there was a deviation from the standard of care which caused the injury or the harm. And in our context, when we're talking about HIE, this is a hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy injury, and in its basic sense, it can happen when there is a reduction in blood and oxygen, which causes a baby to suffer a brain injury. Now, when we are analyzing these cases and when we are going through what happened for a family, when we're doing a birth injury investigation, trying to help them understand, okay, how did this injury happen? Was this something that was caused by genetics? Was this something that was called developmentally, or was this something that happened because of birth injury? A birth injury occurred because of birth trauma. In other words, something that the doctors, the hospital, the nurses, something that they did which caused the injury or the harm. And one of these areas that we are going to look into thoroughly is going to be the imaging. When a baby has suffered a traumatic brain injury, a lot of times there's going to be ultrasounds, or might be done CT scans. In other words, MRIs, certain types of brain imaging will occur. And this imaging can really shed light into this area, because when an HIE injury occurs, and let's say that there has been birth trauma that has caused it, we will generally see a certain type of pattern which will emerge when that happens. And in a lot of instances, these babies, they will have injuries to certain areas of the brain. For example, the brainstem may be involved, basal ganglia may be involved. Any of these areas that are in the central part of the brain, they may be involved when there is an HIE injury, and birth trauma has been the cause of this type of injury. And so I know I talked about a lot. This is a more of a kind of a technical video, but I'm telling you this because it's important to understand that when you speak to a birth injury, a birth trauma attorney like myself, when we're doing these investigations, these are the types of things that we are going to be looking at to be able to try to get a better understanding as to how did this brain injury happen for this baby. If you have more questions, maybe you're watching this video today because your baby has had a traumatic brain injury like HIE and you have questions, there's a telephone number down below on the screen. What I invite you to do is go and pick up your phone and call me. I speak with families like yours all the time about these types of issues: HIE injury, cerebral palsy, CP, MAS, meconium aspiration syndrome, a whole host of types of injuries. This is what we do. One more thing before I get out of here. When you contact my office and talk to my secretary, be sure to get on our calendar, pick a date and a time to be able to, so we can be able to call you back, pick a date and a time. In addition to that, make sure that you leave them a good working email, an email address that you check, because sometimes we have to send information by email. Finally, I practice law here in the state of Maryland. I know from time to time we'll have individuals who will contact my office and they are not in Maryland. They're in the United States, but they're not in Maryland. If that is you, if you're not in Maryland, please understand that we have to use what we call co-counsel or local counsel. In other words, an attorney in your state. That's something we can look to help work with you on, finding that type of information. But I just want to make sure that you understand that co-counsel, that local counsel aspect of things if you are not here in the state of Maryland. All right, that's going to be it for today's quick educational video. Again, I'm Marcus Boston, and I'm one of the childbirth injury medical malpractice attorneys practicing law here in the state of Maryland at Boston Law Group, LLC. We'll talk with you next time. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.